What a bullet! Scott Arfield! He's been threatening that recently, and all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. Here's Rory now. On the outside. Decent.
Barnes! He got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes! And Burnley leading the derby.
Knocks it quickly. Finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell. Saved by the keeper!
Burnley won it to the end! That is magnificent! They deserve that!
On by Paul Patella. Off for a hat-trick.
He's got it! Hat-trick for Nathan Teller! Oh, he's on fire at the minute! 3-0 Burnley! It's Nathan Teller's day, and Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby!
Here's Benson. Can he go on the outside? Comes inside. Top shot.
Oh, the goal! Manuel Benson once more! That is top class! Burnley have done it! Fantastic! Clarence deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello everybody and welcome along to the latest episode of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redmond, ahead of this weekend's clash against Crystal Palace in the Premier League, back at the Turf. It's been a while since we've been at the Turf, hasn't it? Although, judging by the results so far this season at the Turf, well, anyway, really. I'm going to say it's probably better off we're away from home, but it's probably better off we just don't play at the minute, isn't it, I guess? But obviously, Palace is one of the teams that isn't in the cluster of 8 teams at the top, where you could just be like, oh, well, we lost, it's fine. So we're going to have to start picking up points soon. But we said that in the Brentford pre-game show. We sent that in the Bournemouth pre-game show. And we both, well, we all know what happened there. It wasn't great news. It wasn't good performances. And we are back to square one. Obviously, if you're watching on the podcast, you'll see I'm joined by D, and he's from the Back of the Nest pod. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. It's been a while, as we said on our preview as well, but it's good to be talking to you again, bro.
Yeah, definitely, mate. The podcast, to be honest, our podcast, and I'm sure yours has as well, has gone up in viewers and stuff recently. We tend to get a lot more viewers recently, thanks to last season, really. Gained a lot of fans and stuff, especially a lot of South African fans because of Lyle. But those who've been watching the podcast for a while will recognise D. D was on the show quite a lot in the early days of the show. So, yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to have you back, should I say, mate. How have you been?
Yeah, good. Basically flirting with mid-table as usual. Nothing's changed. We still have Roy Hodgson.
Standard.
When you lot were gone, we had Patrick Vieira, but we're back to Roy Hodgson as soon as you get promoted to the Premier League. So, look, Palace is pretty much the same Palace that you know, with a few additions, of course, that we didn't have last time around. I mean, we got Gay and Anderson and all these other players. But, yeah, it's Crystal Palace or Crystal Palace. Let's just say that. There's nothing new.
Yeah, nothing new with Palace. Still in mid-table, still nowhere near relegation, still nowhere near Euro. That's tick for everything with Palace, isn't it? But just before we get started, I just want to remind everybody for the 23-24 season, the Turfcast podcast pre-game show is sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game. Green King Sport venues are showing every televised Burnley fixture over the course of the season. So instead of turning on the internet for a dodgy stream, get your mates together and get down your local Green King pub to get closer to the action. This season, Green King have launched the Green King Sport Instagram page, where there'll be loads of fan content, deals and competitions throughout the season. They've already given away Champions League final tickets and signed shirts, so get over there now before you miss out. Drop them a follow on Instagram, and you won't just be the first to know about all of this. You'll be helping out Turfcast as well, so please do go. And I've done a bit of content for them as well, so if you want to go and check it out, feel free to. And I know I've said it on the Everton pre-game show and other pre-game shows. Me and Green King are working on some codes where these codes will give you 50% off your round at Green King pubs. So get ready for that. Keep your eyes peeled on social media and stuff like that. But anyway, D, Burnley versus Palace. Talk to me. Your season, it's I look at Palace, and sometimes I look at Palace and you're like knocking on the door of Europe, and then sometimes I look at Palace and you're knocking on the door of relegation, but nothing ever happens. And again, this season, you're down in 13th. Had a decent start, but out of your last 3, lost your last 2, drawn 1, and won at United before the last 3, obviously, and then another draw there as well. So what's your start to the season been like, mate?
I'll be honest. Before the Newcastle game, I'd say it was probably a 7 or 8 out of 10 start to the season. The reason why I'm saying that is because the amount of injuries we've had to the start of the season and still picked up results here and there has been amazing. Like, I didn't expect it. We haven't seen a minute of Elise so far this season. Eze's been out for he's meant to be out for 5 to 6 weeks with an injury, so we missed him in quite a few games as well. We've had Decore, Lerma out injured. We had Joe Wood. We've had Odson Edward. At some point, injury crisis got so bad that Roy had to start writing down names on paper to know that who's going to have in training next session. Like, it's been absolutely terrible. Now slowly we're getting these players back, but despite that, as you said, I think we're sitting 13th. And we faced some difficult sides as well. Arsenal, we lost 1-0. Tottenham 2-1. Tottenham, it was an own goal that let us down. Arsenal was a penalty. So look, defensively, we've been fantastic. Our problems have pretty much been in attack, and we haven't brought in the players that we wanted to in the summer. Of course, we've lost Zaha now as well. And in terms of strengthening the squad, but our starting 11 is very good. I do believe that. The thing is, we haven't had Eze or Elise playing together a single minute so far this season. Even though Eze has featured in games, he hasn't been without Elise. So our attack has been lacking. And I think that's been our downfall so far. And I expect an improvement once these players do come back.
Yeah, you say your attack's been lacking. Just looking at some stats earlier, because we have just recorded a pre-game show for your channel. If you want to check it out, the link will be in the description. You've scored 8 goals so far this season. I know that's pretty poor because Burnley scored 8 goals so far this season. So we're on a similar level. But obviously the difference between you is you've only conceded 13, whereas we've conceded 25. So you're saying your attack has been a bit lacking. Would it be fair to say that your defence is quite strong at the minute?
Yeah, 100%. Our defence, that's what gives me faith. Apart from Newcastle game, they literally toyed with us. Most teams have struggled against us defensively, especially in their attack. Because defensively, we went to Old Trafford, kept a clean sheet. Now, I know you're saying it's Man United, they're struggling, but it's still, keeping a clean sheet at Old Trafford. It's still a great, thing to do. And also against Spurs, a side that's flying high. The way they broke us down in first half in that game, they didn't have a single shot on target, which was incredible against a side that's been, scoring goals, have that momentum. So defensively, we've been very good. I don't know where we're ranked now, but about the pre-Newcastle game, we were joint top in terms of clean sheets so far this season with Arsenal. And we got some quality plays there that maybe, if you haven't been watching Palace or following Palace, that we didn't have last time around. We've got Gahey, we've got Anderson, we've still got Tyrick Mitchell there. Yeah. I think Gahey and Anderson are fantastic. Gahey now playing for England as well. I like Anderson. Anderson, who plays for his national side as well, over in Denmark. So both of them internationals, very good, modern centre halves who can play on the ball. Can ping out the passes. So it's exactly what you expect from centre halves. And in front of them, we've added Lerma next to Decore, which we didn't have last year. And Lerma's been out injured, but he was back for the Tottenham game, and I think he helped us significantly in defence as well, in terms of the double pivot that we had. So look, the defence, you can't really question it apart from the Newcastle game, which was awful. That game was awful from the first minute to the last minute. That's the one thing that I'm leaning on against Burnley. I think defensively, we should be very solid. It's about what attackers do we have to hurt you on the other side of the pitch.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a lot of teams have gone into games and said similar things, or said, "Oh, this area has not been great." But then I think it was the Brentford fan actually said, we've not scored too many. They put 3 past us, mate. So we have been pretty poor at the back. We are going to need to improve, even against the Palace side that are struggling to score. You referenced it already, and you made a bit of a joke about it. You said, "Oh, Palace are still Palace. It's been a couple of years since we've done something together. Nothing's changed. Palace are still Palace." What are your ambitions? For Crystal Palace this season? Because it's one of them. Like, you're not going to go down. I think the bottom 4, the bottom 5, if you include the likes of Forest and Everton as well, bottom 6 are going to be the bottom 6. Palace are more than safe. But then you're looking at the likes of Newcastle and Villa now, who are there knocking on the door of the top 6. So it's going to be very difficult to break into Europe. And forgive me for swearing, Brighton as well. So where do you see Palace finishing? Is it always just constantly mid-table, or are you just wanting to do a little bit more, maybe win a trophy somehow, or try and break into this European sort of like cluster?
Yeah, if we're talking about this season, I think I was going to say realistic, but the aim is top 10. Like even finishing 10th, that would be ideal for us. It's a question of when you have ambition, it's hard to say, but when you have a manager who's going to be here for one season and then you have to bring in another manager, you have to go again next summer.
Yeah.
Palace, we've got a problem with the ownership model that we have right now. We've got 3 owners who I think want different things. One owner wants to take more risks than the other. The other wants to play it safe. Like Steve Parish, he wants to make sure the new stand is built, so we increase the capacity, increase our revenue. John Textor, he wants to do a bit more, a bit quicker with the players that we've got as well. So we've got problems at the top in terms of making sure everyone's aligned to want to achieve the same thing. But in short-term aim, it should be this squad fully fit. Top 10 wouldn't be crazy. I don't think so. I think we have got the players. We've seen it even so far this season. Like defensively, we've been solid. When you bring in the attackers, then that's when we'll see if we can continue in the same form as well as defensively and start scoring more goals. Then I think we become more of a threat. But yeah, as you said, it's hard to break into that top 5, top 6 because you got players like you got teams like Newcastle and, as you said, Brighton, and which just sounds crazy.
It really does.
And you know, Villa and all these teams that are trying to do the same thing. But for us, how I see it, anyways, I take a game at a time, literally game at a time. It's a long season. Villa annoyed me that game. We faced them so this early on the season, was beating them, and then in the 93rd minute, the penalty was given, and we crumbled like that. But we've faced these sides, and so far, even against the top sides, yes, we didn't maybe pick up the points that we wanted, but we weren't that far off. Like in terms of our style of play, like in terms of trying to keep them quiet and then trying to hurt them on counter attack, we weren't that far off with as well as missing key players. So for me, I'm looking at, look, if you want me to be brutally honest, I'm looking at this Burnley game saying, if we want to be a top 10 side, if you have a struggling Burnley side, and you want to be serious this season, we'll see if Eze and Elise are back. We need to try to go there and win. That should be, and I mean this with respect. Like I like what Kompany's doing. I like what you lot are doing in terms of style of football. But for a side like Palace, if they do have them ambitions, I think, as you said, just like you want to try to beat Palace because they're not in that top bracket. And they're also, you know, not near the bottom bracket. So it'd be a nice win. So that's how I see this game as well. We need to start picking up more points now. Now that the 10 games have gone by, now that these players are coming back, we've got some favorable run of games. I'm not saying easy because it can easily backbite me and we could end up losing all 3 or 5 of our next games. But now is the time to get serious and pick up more points. That's how I see it, Joe. And if we do, then top 10 should be the minimum aim because we have got some players there that's been mentioned for fees around 50 to 40 to 60 million pounds. So if you have them kind of quality in your team, then you have to show it on the pitch.
Yeah, no, it's understandable, mate. I think even if we played Sheffield United this weekend, they'd be going, we can win this. It's Burnley. We can win this. So I completely get that. We've mentioned it briefly, and you said you've had injury crises. Crisis is even a word. An injury crisis that is getting a little bit better now, and there's not as many players missing. But you have briefly mentioned Elise and Eze. I'm just currently on premierinjuries.com, and they've got a potential return date for Elise this Saturday, potential return date for Eze this Saturday, a potential return date for Mitchell this Saturday. What's the latest with all of them, please?
So, yes, before we started recording, news broke out that they're back in training. Which is good, which is a positive indicator because honestly, I missed Elise. Remember, Elise was meant to go to Chelsea, and last minute that deal, like we managed to make him sign another contract. Like since then, we haven't seen him play because he's been out injured, like literally from pre-season till now. So we don't know if Eze or Elise is going to play, but knowing how things have been going, knowing Roy Hodgson, if they have a chance to play, I think they will play and they should play because our attack stinks. It's as simple as that. I mean, what do you expect from Jeffrey Schlupp, Odsonne Edouard, and Jordan Ayew as your attacking three? It's terrible. It's scary. And on top of that, Will Hughes playing as a number 10. So, look, we do need them players back. There is a chance that they will be back for this game, but I guess it depends on what's the chances of them playing and getting injured again. If it's high, then I don't think we'll risk them. But then again, with Elise, with Eze and Elise, I don't think I don't think that's the case. I do think they will feature if they have a chance against Burnley, which will be significant for us.
That's a big shame. That is a big shame. It's just have a look. Just have a look. Hodgson, if you're watching this, I know you're a big fan of Turfcast. Just give him another week. Just give him another week. That's the point. But now I see why you've only scored 8 goals. Because when you mentioned that front four, I would back our front four over the course of a season to get.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That's what I'm saying.
That is poor.
But if you add Eze and Elise to that, that changes.
It suddenly becomes so much better.
Yeah, and then also we've got our Zaha replacement, França, who came off the bench in the last 2 games. I don't want to go off a tangent, but Roy Hodgson, basically, the fans are getting onto Roy Hodgson for his comments over the past 2 games because it's weird. We've lost the past 2 games, but he's blaming it on the younger substitutes who, when we have come on the pitch, we have scored goals and we've looked like a better side. So he's got this agenda against younger players. I don't know why. I don't know what they've done to him. But for example, he's been out injured as well, França, who we got from Flamengo, who was linked with Newcastle and Chelsea as well for 20 million. And he's been picking up more minutes as the weeks go by. So maybe he could feature a bit more in this game as well. But it depends on Roy Hodgson. Then again, if he has comments like that towards these younger players, then France, it might be a bit too early for him to start. But look, our attacking three is definitely not what it should be. And if these players do come back, if they're fit enough, and if they show Roy what they can do, then that will definitely change, and we should improve there.
Yeah, you mentioned Roy Hodgson there, obviously Palace manager for quite a long time now, even had a bit of a break in the middle and came back. I remember Roy being quite similar to our former manager, Sean Dyche, where he plays in a low block, but he will use the pace that your players have and try and hit teams on the counter-attack. That's where he differs from Dyche, whereas Dyche will be more focused on set pieces and things like that, and a good press, to be fair. I think Sean Dyche gets some stick, but his teams can press quite well. Whereas I think you'd sit back and hit teams on the counter with the pace. Is that still the style that you try and play with under Hodgson?
Yes, it is. But then again, I'm curious to see if that will continue. The reason why I'm saying that is when he came back last season for the last 10 games, we were playing some fantastic football. And it shocked me. Eze was on a pitch, Elise was on a pitch, attacking football. We were pressing teams up high, getting results, scoring goals, still solid defensively. So it's fantastic. But now, of course, we're coming... As the games go by, you lose that momentum for Patrick Vieira. You lose what he had as a core in terms of how you are in possession, out of possession, in possession. And of course, there were some things that weren't working out. That's why we didn't win a game for like 3 months and we're struggling to score goals. But Hodgson came back and changed it. But now, this season, he did go back to a bit more, let's be solid defensively, let's try to hit teams on a counter. But is that a result of not having the players to hit teams on counter? That's why you just want to be solid defensively. When I mentioned Eze, Elise missing, and some of these other key players, Lerma was missing in a few games as well. Joe Wood, who I don't think he is a big miss, but he was out. So Clan was playing. So Edward also out injured in certain points. Roy Hodgson was out for the Villa game. So it's not even players. Our manager was out for one game as well. So I wonder whether we've gone back to that low block approach due to the fact that, we've missed a few players. So against Burnley, I think it'll be interesting to see what we do, Joe, because you will be keeping the ball. We know that. We know that you like to have possession. And I wonder, because you said that you do struggle at times when teams press you. I wonder if you do go back to like a mid-block or a bit high up the pitch and try to press you a bit more, because we have seen that side of Roy Hodgson, just not enough as of recently anyways.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'm just looking back, actually, at some of our last games, because I know I said on your show that we did before this, is that Burnley and Palace have had some classics. I forgot the last time we played at the Turf was actually a really good game as well, wasn't it? 3-3. Maxwell Cornet scored a screamer of a volley. I think 5 of those goals was in the first half. Just quickly looking at it now, it is. But yeah, we've had some really good games down the years, and I always remember one from... I think it was the early 2000s. Like we went 2-0 up quite early on. It might have been the late 2000s, actually, like 2008, 2009, somewhere like that. I can't remember exactly, but we went 2-0 up quite early on. And then you come back and won 3-2. I think it's that long ago.
2008. When I say recently, that was the Premier League era. I was at that game. It was Burnley away. It was when Dwight Gale scored, I think it's 15-16 season. It might be in 15.
I think this is this is what I'm going to expand on to. I think there's one. I'm going back so long. Dougie Freeman actually got the hat trick, and I think it's happened since then as well. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. 2003. So Robbie Blake scored for Burnley in the 11th minute. Oh no, it weren't. Sorry, you scored first. Actually, I'm talking rubbish. Yeah. Then we come back to 2-1. Then you pulled it back to 3-2. But yeah, then there's these other ones as well where we've gone 2-0 up and you've come back. But I remember one of my favourite games in the recent years is, I think it's this one, 5th of November 2016, if that one's a correct one. Yeah, it is. So 3-2 to Burnley. Okay. We get an early goal through Sam Vokes. Then we get another one through Gudmundsson, who's still at the club, actually. And then you come back, Connor Wickham in the 60th minute, Ben Teke with a penalty in the 81st minute. Then we're all fuming, but Ashley Barnes scores an absolute, well, it wasn't even a screamer. It was a well-worked team goal and a tap-in. But it's one of them. It's just scenes in it. But I'm expecting, because Burnley and Palace have always had good games. I've always liked the Burnley and Palace games. And now that Burnley play in a different way, I'm expecting
goals.
I'm expecting goals. But I've just remembered, obviously, my prediction isn't anything like that. I'm expecting maybe free-flowing, but without maybe the goals, because both teams are struggling.
Yeah, exactly. We're both struggling. That's the funny thing. We both scored, what, 8 goals each?
Yeah.
Did you say?
Yeah, both 8 each, yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. So I'm saying goals, but let's just say this: we're expecting chances to be created,
yeah.
But no one maybe struggling to finish them off. But yeah, look, Burnley and Palace. Let's break it down like this. When you think of Burnley versus Palace, you're thinking, as a neutral, I would think, all right, I'm not watching that. I'm not watching Burnley. It doesn't sound exciting as a game, right? Burnley versus Palace, like as a neutral. But when you look at Burnley versus Palace, the results and some of the games that we've had, they're thrillers. There's some fantastic stories to be written up from all type of games. I mean, the one that we came back 3-2, the one that, it was 2-2, then you lot 1-3. Like, there's always classics. There are goals in Burnley versus Palace. So I'll be honest, Joe. I know we'll talk about predictions, but I didn't predict the high scoring game. It could be another wild game because of how we both play and how open you are. How you might leave some spaces in behind as you try to break us down. It could be another a classic game or 2 to 3 goals. It could, but then again, it could go both ways and it could end up 0-0 as well because we're both struggling to score goals. But there is that element that I would be surprised if it's not an exciting game. That's what I'd be surprised about. I think it should be an exciting game to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Burnley Palace games are always good games. Even when we went to your place and had a basic 2-0 win, I think in 2016, it was so significant for us because that was the game that sort of propelled us to safety. Yeah. And I remember I didn't actually go to that one. I remember watching it in my mate's front room, just being buzzing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. There's some good games. Before we get into predictions and stuff like that, I do want to talk to you because it's always good to get the thoughts of people who've not watched Burnley for a while or not played against Burnley for a while. Obviously, that you yourself, you've not been on the podcast for a couple of years due to the relegation and things like that. What are your thoughts on what Burnley have done? Because Burnley couldn't be any more different from when you last faced them. They obviously got rid of Daesh, brought in a different manager that plays in a different style. A worldwide name in Vincent Kompany. People were shocked that Burnley could attract him. But I remember a few years ago, I went on a Liverpool podcast and they said to me, if Daesh left, who would you want in? And I said, well, I'm not going to give a specific name, but somebody, and people are going to say, you wanted this guy. I didn't want this guy. I wanted a name like this. But somebody like Steven Gerrard, who's turned out to be a terrible manager, I admit that. Yeah, but somebody with a big name who could attract good players. And that's exactly what Kompany is. And now we're playing a certain way. We've got a different ethos and things like that. And I just want to get your thoughts on what Burnley have done and are continuing to try and do just to completely change the mentality surrounding the club.
Yeah, I mean, Burnley is for Palace fans that haven't watched Burnley or just anyone who haven't watched Burnley since you went down and got back up. I think everyone will be shocked about Burnley. Because it's not what you expect. It's not the old Burnley of, Sean Dashball, play for set pieces, solid defensively. It's an exciting Burnley, but has it been working so far? And people are naturally going to be asking those questions. Has it been working? Should you play this style of football in the Premier League with the players that you got? I don't agree with that. You have your style. That style worked in the Championship. You're adapting to the Premier League. You've only played 10 games. Yes, you're going to have hiccups along the way, but you will pick up points eventually. Hopefully not against Palace, but you will pick up points along the way because, you know, some of these players, they don't have Premier League experience. Your manager, of course, Premier League legend, but he's not, in terms of managerial experience, he doesn't have that, you know, that pedigree in the Premier League. So he's adapting to it as well by the week, playing against different sides. So I think Burnley have a project going on. And even if the worst was to happen, he was to go down, I would say still stick with Kompany. You've seen it in the past with Dash. You've been relegated with Dash as well, and you got promoted and you've had some sort of season. I mean, Burnley's played European football. Let's not forget that. And that was under Dash. So I think you just have to be patient. I think patience is important because you could easily get rid of Vincent Kompany and you could go better. You could have a more experienced Premier League manager, but it could also go worse. And then you might end up playing negative football again, end up getting relegated and start that whole process again because I doubt Kompany would come back after you sacking him. So you have to be careful because we done that with Vieira and we had to make a decision. I was absolutely fuming at the time. But for example, with Vieira in the first season, it was fantastic. In the second season, it wasn't as great. And I think that's down to experience. So with Kompany, it could come down to that. Maybe he's not experienced enough in the Premier League, but I think 10 games is still too early. You have to wait till 15, 20. And then afterwards, if it's still bad and horrible, and let's say you're losing 3-4-0 every game, then yes, sack him. But if you have something to hold on to, then I would say just go all the way with Kompany because we saw it with Forest last year as well with Cooper. They stuck with Cooper. They ended up staying up, and a lot of the ownership was questioning it, but the fans wanted him. So I think you got a project going on. Stick with that project, even if it means that you go down because he's proven himself in the Championship, and then he's learning. Remember, he's learning. Still a very young manager. He's learning along the way. And you can bring in a manager that's, I don't know, 10, 20 years older, but you're not going to have a long-term plan under him. So if I was you, I'll stick with him for now.
Yeah, I agree. Stick by him for me, even if we get relegated, unless obviously we get battered every single week, like you say. But even if we get relegated, stick by him, continue the project, trust the process. All the cliches will come out, but it needs to be done. It needs to be done. And you perfect example there. We've done it already as a football club. We stuck with Sean Dyche. Sean Dyche was a better manager because of it, and Burnley were in a stronger position because of it. That will be the same again with Vincent Kompany. But we do need to improve, and we need to see some signs of improvement, hopefully, starting at the weekend. Let's get into some predictions of how we think the game will go and stuff like that, and then score lines. I'm expecting Burnley to have a lot of the ball, you sitting back and then trying to hit us on the counter. If you have, like obviously Elise and Eze coming back, then I think you will get some joy against us with the pace, if I'm honest, because the midfield just completely is missing in action for the majority of the season so far. And I think them quality players will pick off them gaps that we're leaving if them players are there. But if them players aren't there, you fill me with a little bit of hope, like the negativity coming from your side about that front four as filled me with maybe they can't hit us on the counter. But I'm still expecting a free-flowing attacking football from Burnley, Palace hitting us on the counter and doing it very well if the players are there. But I'm going to go for 1-1. What about you, mate?
I'm going to go for 1-0 Palace. I just think defensively, we've been very good. I'm expecting that to continue against Burnley as well. We've tried to keep a lot of teams quiet as possible throughout the season, and it has worked. And I think we've got 4 clean sheets. I know in 9 games it might not sound that great, but 4 and 9 is still solid, I think. So we've been very good defensively, and if we get Eze and Elise back as well, I think that will tip it. But even if we don't, I think it would be like a 0-0. But if we do that, I can see us edging it 1-0. And as I said, I mean this with respect. Like with Palace, we should be looking at this game thinking, we need to try our best to win. Because if you win, that would be absolutely terrible for us. That's the side that's below us, picking on more points, get closer to us. But of course, you're looking at Palace, looking at our front four, thinking maybe they don't have enough in attack, so we could get results. So for me, I'm going to go for 1-0. I'm going to go for 1-0 Palace. It should be an exciting game. We should be able to hurt you on the counter. But Eze and Elise coming back, that will be significant if they do start anyway, because then our bench gets stronger as well. So we do have more options coming off the bench if it doesn't work out and if they're not 100% fit.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree with that. And you say there, you think 4 clean sheets out of like 10 isn't too great, but it is actually quite great. We've got 0. 0 clean sheets so far in the league this season. There is a big debate surrounding the goalkeeper at the minute, and we'll see. We'll see. I will just point out before we do end the show, I have recorded this on Wednesday before the Everton game. I'm going to be setting off to Everton in a little bit. So if there's any massive injuries or any massive talking points in the Everton match that I haven't spoken about, that's why. Hopefully we're in the next round of the cup. Sean Dyche has been sent packing crying, and we've all been loving Kompany again. But we'll see. But if there's anything missed from the Everton match that I haven't spoken about, I apologise. It's because I've recorded this before the Everton game because I'm working on Thursday and Friday, so I won't have a chance to do it. But, D, just before we wrap everything up, do you want to let everyone know where they can find you and digest some of your content?
Yeah, Back of the Nest on all your usual platforms, YouTube, X now, I was going to say Twitter, Instagram, and basically everywhere, TikTok. Back of the Nest, Crystal Palace fan channel. We've got you as well for our preview, so make sure to check it out, people. Yeah,
definitely do. D's one of the OGs. He's been around for a while. Like I said, the people that were watching the podcast when we first started around 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was, we'll remember D. It's always good to see you again, mate. And I'm sure we'll link up later on in the season.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully you stay up, man. Hopefully you stay up. I was devastated when you lot got relegated because it was always a pleasure talking to you. I know both our teams are basically struggling all the time, but
yeah,
it's like we're always on the same boat, just struggling. So yeah, man. Hopefully you lot stay up this season, and yeah. Apart from Saturday, hopefully the rest of your season goes well.
Yeah, good to say. You've just nicked my sign off, man. I always say that. Well, good luck for the rest of the season, mate. But after Saturday,
I learned it from more than 4 or 5 years of talking.
I bet you did. Yeah. Thanks, mate. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.